Barbie was just the beginning. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. This lesson, can you believe this? This is lesson 600. 600 topics, all about what's going on in the world to help you expand your vocabulary, express your best ideas in English, and hopefully have a little fun at the same time. Today's full lesson resources are available at plainenglish.com/600. That is thanks to JR, who has been with us from the very beginning. Coming up today, the Barbie movie was just the beginning. Mattel, the toy maker, has plans for multiple other movies based on its toys and games. In today's lesson, we'll talk a little about how Barbie was made and also about the other Mattel movies we have to look forward to. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you how to use the English phrase get off the ground, and we have a quote of the week. Let's dive in. Mattel is a toy maker. It was founded in Los Angeles, California in 1945. Today, it has operations in 35 countries and offers its product in 150 countries. You definitely recognize Mattel toys. Its first toy, released in 1947, was a ukulele. Okay, maybe you don't recognize the uke-a-doodle. Yes, that's what it was called. But you probably recognize Barbie, which came out in 1959, and Ken, who followed her in 1961. If you were more into cars, you might recognize Hot Wheels. That came in 1968. Maybe you played the card game Uno, also a Mattel brand. If you're a parent now, you might have heard of the brand called American Girl. If you were a parent about 10 or 15 years ago, you definitely know about Barney. When I was a kid, I played with a lot of Fisher-Price toys, and Mattel now owns Fisher-Price. So they're big in toys. They are the second biggest toy maker in the world after Lego. But now, you might have heard, they're big in movies too. In 2013, Mattel formed a media division to make films and animated TV series based on its toys. The division produced animated films for television. Just one production went to the movies. It was called Max Steel, and it was a box office failure. But the company reorganized this division and gave it a mandate: make bigger, blockbuster movies. They called it Mattel Films. Now, Mattel didn't have a history in movie making, but this strategy makes sense. The most reliable box office hits these days are franchises, names and characters that moviegoers already know. Just look at the success of Marvel and superhero movies. And Mattel has a large roster of recognizable, even beloved characters. They started with the most recognizable brand they had. The Barbie movie was first conceived in 2009, but it got off to a slow start. There were casting changes, writing changes, producing changes, but development finally got off the ground in 2018. Writing took place during the pandemic, and the movie was filmed over 3 months in 2022. By summer 2023, bus stops, billboards, even monuments glowed a bright pink ahead of the movie's release in July. The media blitz worked. Barbie has already made over $1 billion at the box office. But Barbie was just the beginning. Here are some of the other movies that Mattel has planned. The next film is going to be Barney, the purple dinosaur who sings a catchy jingle called "I Love You, You Love Me." The TV show was for kids, but the movie will be about 30-somethings who grew up in the age of Barney. The producers have suggested it might be surreal. I think it would have to be. Next on the list is Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels are toy race cars. They've been adapted for video games before, but this will be the first live-action movie. A producer has called the film emotional and grounded and gritty. I don't know what that means in the context of race cars, but we'll have to see it in theaters together. American Girl will be next. There have been some direct-to-TV movies featuring American Girl characters before, but this will be the first produced by Mattel itself. After that, Big Jim? I've never heard of Big Jim, but I have heard of the movie Borat, and one of the co-producers of Borat will produce the Big Jim movie for Mattel. Well, now we're getting deeper into the schedule and less is known about these next ones. But the company also plans movies for Matchbox Toys. I think those are cars. Also Polly Pocket, The Magic 8 Ball, and Thomas the Trains. There's a movie planned for Uno. There's going to be a movie based on a card game. One source says the movie will be strongly inspired by the hip-hop scene in Atlanta and will feature an American rapper in the lead role. I didn't see Barbie. I guess I will eventually. I like dramas. I like the story to at least be plausible. It doesn't have to be realistic, just plausible. I don't like the escapist fantasy kind of movies, and I'm not into superhero movies or save the universe movies or things like that. And I have zero interest, in seeing a movie based on the card game Uno. Here's today's quote of the week from Gertrude Stein. Silent gratitude isn't much use to anyone. Gratitude means being thankful. So silent gratitude means being thankful, but not saying it out loud. Silent gratitude isn't much use to anyone, Gertrude Stein says. Wise words. Well, next up, we're going to talk about what it means to get off the ground. Get off the ground. I think my mom said that to me more than once when I was a kid, probably in public, like maybe in the grocery store. Get off the ground. But that's not how we're going to talk about it today. When a project gets off the ground, the project finally starts to get some momentum. It goes from the idea phase to the reality phase. When does something start to become real? When is it really happening? When is it no longer just talk, no longer just planning? This comes from aviation. Think about a plane. The plane is taxiing around the runway. Are you on the flight right then? I don't know. You're just riding around in an airplane on the ground. When the airplane gets in the air, well, now you're really on your way. Now you're off the ground. You guys know I moved to Mexico now 10 months ago. This move was in the idea phase for a long time. I thought about it, and this is typical of me. I turned it over and over in my head. I had to get excited about it. What was my life going to be like? What kind of budget would I need? Where would I live? What would I do with all my stuff in Chicago? I even came down here for a month just to see how well I'd like it. I probably thought about it for 6 months, maybe more. But then I put my apartment on the market. I put it up for sale. And that's when the move finally got off the ground. That's when this move, for me, went from being just an idea to being reality. Barbie, the movie, was planned in 2009. This is 2023. So they started thinking about this 14 years ago. Mattel had different partnerships with movie studios, but the project was stuck in the planning phase for a long time. Who would write it? Who would produce it? Who would own the rights? What would the basic plot be? The planning phase took forever, but then they were ready. The movie got off the ground in 2018. That's when they had an idea, they had producers, they had a plan, they had the money, and they started making the movie. Not planning it, not arguing over it, really making the movie. Doing the work to create the film. That started happening in 2018. That's when the movie really... And don't use this with something spontaneous. You don't use this with something easy. What is the second most popular sport in the world? 5, 4, 3, 2. It's cricket. If you didn't know it right away, you weren't going to guess correctly. The second most popular sport in the world is cricket, with over 2.5 billion fans. Very few of them are in the United States. But in 2018, USA Cricket, which runs the national teams for competition, they announced that they wanted a professional cricket league in the US by 2021. Now, it took a while. It took a while for them to raise money, plan the league. Where would the teams be? Where would they get players from? How many games? What time of year? Where would it happen? All that stuff. Well, it finally got off the ground in May 2022 when they secured about $120 million in investment. They planned the first tournament, and this is when it became real. It was a lot of fun to plan and talk, but only in May 2022 did they get the money, and then they could start to execute. That's when it finally got off the ground. And then this year, they had their first season, which ran for a little over 2 weeks. The team from New York won by 7 wickets. What does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine. And that's all for today's Plain English. Now listen, do we deserve a break? I think we do. 600 lessons. We produce them 52 weeks a year, so we deserve a break. Now, a break at Plain English just means we take our foot off the gas a little. So the next 2 or 3 lessons will be shorter, easier ones, and that will let our fantastic team, get ahead on their work so that they can take a week off at the end of the summer. So call it Plain English Summer Break. We'll still have episodes, but they'll be quicker, easier to consume. And you guys, you lucky ducks, as you're on your own vacations, you get to enjoy an easier week of English. How about that? Win-win, right? All right, so that's all for today, Monday, August 21st. Summer is coming to an end here in the Northern Hemisphere. Have a great week. PlainEnglish.com/600 is where you'll find all the resources for this lesson, and we'll be back on Thursday. Our topic will be, which English-speaking country has the best flag? I told you they would be easy. See you then.